Welcome to another episode of the Elite Agent Masterclass. Today, Jack Durkin and myself are joined by Lee Holman. Lee is a partner alongside us here at the Avenue. We've known Lee for a long time. Lee's a very interesting character. He's got a brilliant story to share. This episode could be a little bit like Morse code if we have to bleep out the expletives. So anyone with a sensitive nature, you probably won't want to listen to this episode if you're a little bit sensitive to the occasional F-bomb. But we're okay with that because Lee is real, he's raw, he's to the point, and most of all, he's a top bloke. Lee, welcome to the Elite Agent Masterclass. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I was about to say how brave you are having me on, but as long as Tom or Ben's with the bleep machine, I think we'll be all right.
You'll be absolutely fine. And there's a very specific reason, Lee, as to why we're recording this with you now. So do you want to share that with us?
Okay, so I think it's important to say, because when you're self-employed, I know there's a stigma around that you have to, when you go on holiday, you have to work. It's different. I had a week and a half of admin and follow-ups to do, so I decided to do that in Cyprus. Not going on holiday and working. I knew what I had to do, and I chose to do that in Cyprus, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah. So you're currently sunning yourself in sunny Cyprus. How hot is it over there?
Mate, it's roasting. The plan was to be out by the sea with the sunglasses on with the sea behind me, but it's too hot. I'm in the aircon room. I just couldn't do it. It's far too hot. As you can see, I've only been here, 2 days? And I'm burned.
Fact 50's not working.
Yeah. Five applications there. Anyway. Fact 50's is not working for you.
It really is. Nah, really ain't. It really ain't.
So the reason why you wanted to jump on and join us specifically this week is because you're away on holiday, you're with your family, you're enjoying some downtime in Cyprus. The one thing that I've recognised working with you for the last just over a year as in partnership at the Avenue is that you have really found your groove with the work-life balance piece. And so that's why this episode is being recorded whilst you're in Cyprus, because you sort of said, well, that's what it's all about, right? You know, going down this self-employed path, it's all well and good earning fantastic money, which, by the way, it sounds like, you know, you're on for a really fantastic year, but it's about that balance. So what does that look like to you?
Do you know what? I had this, I had a meeting with Jack, was it last month? And you asked me that. And I simply said, and I know it might sound a bit arrogant, but I really couldn't give a shit. I've kind of made it. Before I start saying this, my customers are literally the reason why I do this job, and everybody I've got a 5-star review literally throughout my whole time. And there was a point of what I was saying, but I'm mumbling on and I forgot. No. I probably do around about 15 to 20 hours a week. Maybe less, maybe some more, but on average, that's probably about right. So if you'd have said to me right at the beginning, what would it look like? Because I think everyone's got to have a ceiling or an aim, and I don't think a lot of people know where to stop. I think it's I've got to this point, now I've got to get to that point and that point. And I don't know if anyone's ever going to be really happy with where they are. But for me, I would say now I'm doing 20 odd hours a week. I'm not going to say how much I'm going to earn this year. And the majority of the time I'll spend it with my family. So in a nutshell, yeah, I've made it. I've done it. It's exactly what I wanted to do. I couldn't be happier with what I'm doing.
I really, it makes the hair in the back of my neck stand up to hear that, because you are right. A lot of people, when is enough? You know, when do you reach that point where you're like, do you know what? I've got a really great life here. The balance is good. And some people are addicted to work. Fine. If that makes you happy, as long as people are happy. But for you, at what point did you have that recognition? Was it a case of, right, I'm going to go on this journey, and when I hit this certain threshold, that's when I know I'm good? Or did you kind of hit a point where you went, actually, this is my sweet spot?
Okay. Well, look, we all know where we started and where we met, and we know what the hours we were doing there. And if you hadn't worked there, no one would believe that you'd actually do 70 hours a week. Nobody would believe it, because they say it's impossible. And we had to do that week in, week out, week in, week out. You felt you couldn't go on holiday then because you couldn't tell your customers, because you got so much going on. Do they actually want you to go on holiday? So I would say I kind of walked away from that, but do I still want to do this? I was exhausted. absolutely exhausted. My phone, emails. And then I think I just took a step back. I was like, no, I love this. I just need to work smarter, not harder. And it aligned after having a chat with you guys. I didn't join because of you two. Like, I know everyone says that, and it was a big factor, but I'm not going to sit here and suck you off and go, oh, Jack and James, it was literally.
There's the first one. There's the first one. It's taken 5 minutes to get there.
Look, I'll take that. It was more every agent, whether they admit to themselves or not, when they do their property photos or anything, they want them to look the best and be the best. I don't care what you say. Even when we was at that other place, you still wanted it to be the best.
You can mention Purple Bricks, mate. It's the
so when we was there,
the other words that are off limits, like subtle off and stuff like that. There's part of them ones. Purple Bricks, we can talk about them.
All right, fair play. You see, in a way, even though everything was slapdash because you had no time to do it, you still wanted the marketing to look the best for your customers. And it just wasn't viable. You couldn't do it. Whereas here, after speaking to you guys, obviously, both me and Kieran started following you from probably day one. And it was like, yeah, these guys this is what it's going to be about. And then weren't even a decision, was it? I remember speaking to you, end of November. By December, I had my first instruction and I was off. I haven't really looked back. But the sweet spot, I'll just go off on a tangent here, so you need to reel me in every now and then. I don't know when it was. I can't put my finger on it. I just know that. Actually, I do know when it was. It was last month when Jack was saying, what about this? What about that? And I was like, no, I'm good. And I was racking my brain to try and think how I could be better than I am now. And I thought, yeah, I can't. And that's when I think that's when I knew.
It was an interesting one because when we spoke, 2 weeks ago, I think it was now, the premise of the call was to catch up, see how the business was doing. I suppose really to chew over some challenges or get some ideas in terms of how we might be able to help. But yeah, the first thing he said to me was, look, everyth's good. Like, I'm in a really good place, and you even said, you're not having to chase loads and loads of listings and wanting to, take over the world. But you were in a position where the leads that you were getting, the instructions you were getting, the business that you were getting was working well, and you had your holiday coming up, something to look forward to. You've had 3 or 4 holidays now this year. Seem to be always on holiday, obviously. Yeah. But you're in a place where you've got that. I suppose what you feel is a great balance.
Yeah, and the main thing, obviously, is that I know it sounds corny and cheesy and a cliche, but it's making sure that the customers are looked after, because that's why everyone gets up. I don't care what you say. It could be money, but if you've got just constant aggravation, the money ain't worth it. We know that from our days at Purple Bricks. I wouldn't go back there now for a guaranteed 150 grand a year. Wouldn't do it because I spent no time with my family at all. Now I do the school run every morning. Everyone hates doing Monday morning, so guess what? I don't do nothing. Unless it's urgent viewing or valuation, I don't do nothing. I have that Monday morning just to do nothing.
Do you know, it's an interesting one as well, because you refer to Purple Bricks, and look, all three of us have been through that millstone. I did in the early days, back 2015, 2016. I burnt out. Jack got to that place in 2020, 2021. You went through the same. I think it's not arrogance, it's just the reality. Most high-performing agents that were in that business hit a point where it was like, this is not sustainable. And the only way for it to be sustainable is to spend money on support. But the reality was that the money wasn't that good. It wasn't good enough to start surrounding yourself with support without actually then having to go, well, if I put someone in play to support me, I've now got to do another 50% in terms of volume anyway. So all I'm doing is I'm robbing Peter to pay Paul. But the point I wanted to make there is I don't think that's just exclusive to Purple Bricks. I personally do believe that it's probably quite prevalent across the industry. Purple Bricks was an extreme. Going out and doing 5 and 6 valuations a day was ridiculous, especially when you had to do marketing shoots and then you're getting pulled into progression. No matter what BS gets spread that there's a support mechanism, those guys are overrun, bless them. And if you want to give great service to your clients, you are ending up getting dragged into the progression process as well. So
plus viewings, plus your viewings.
This is the point. And I do think that then is probably more industry specific than it is maybe even exclusively to PB. So moving forward, then you kind of have been on a journey because you've been in the industry how long, Lee?
For 2018.
2018. So you've been in the industry for 6 years. You've been at PB. You've worked at another online agency. You then obviously partnered with us, and you said it earlier. You've gone through that transition of volume to now actually it's quality over quantity, better quality clients. What have you seen, whether it be mindset or lead generation or whatever the case may be, what have you seen as the biggest challenge from transitioning out of that high volume, low quality to low volume, high quality?
It's kind of at the beginning, and this just sound really weird, but it's just going to go how it goes. Like you always warn about that. I kind of felt a bit guilty at the lack of work I was doing. There's no real way of saying it. So it kind of went from 150 mile an hour to sort of 30 mile an hour. But in that 30 mile an hour, instead of being able to deliver a service of, at Purple Bricks, they was probably getting a 35% service. I still got 5-star, but here it's concentrating on the journey of the customer, what they need. So it's not just flying in, all right, Paul and Sue, yeah, you want to sell, right, bang, sign up and go. So now, look, we all learned a lot at Purple Bricks. There's absolutely no denying that, like things like the pre-call, would that be about? I don't know. So then I sort of took it a step further. So I would say, I felt a bit guilty with the lack of work that I was doing, but then as long as my customers were constantly up to date with what was going on, I kind of then got at ease with it. I don't know if that made any sense, but in my head, it sounded fucking perfect.
It made perfect sense. And I think Jack is probably the best one to react to it, because I feel when we launched the business, you felt similarly.
Yeah, very, very similar. I think it was a big change for me as well, quite similarly going from, you call it 150 miles an hour, and it seems to slow down. I suppose it's more you're very reactive at Purple Brick, so you're just constantly reacting to everything. Where you've got to change your mindset when it comes to self-employed, because you have to be very proactive. You have to go out there and generate your leads and opportunities yourself. So I really struggled at the start, and one of the things, quite similar to you, challenges I found was having that guilt of feeling as though, am I busy enough? Am I doing enough? Am I working hard enough? And there was a real guilt for me. The other challenge, and I don't know if you found it yourself as well, but I was also wanting to win everything. And I don't know whether that's an ego thing or it was just what I'd been accustomed to, wanting to go out there and win every single listing. Whereas I think for all of us, it's very different now. We want to take on the right listings. We want to take on the right clients. We want to provide the right service to them and only work with the clients that we really want to work with and take on the properties that we really want to take on, as opposed to being just everyone and everyone.
No, I agree. Couldn't put it better myself, to be fair. Couldn't put it better myself.
So when you first partnered with us, Lee, I want to share this. And by the way, for anyone listening, despite the fact that you're partnered with The Avenue, we did not, other than me saying, look, can we just avoid certain topics because of language that will be included attached to those topics and what have you? Other than that, we didn't prep or prime you for this conversation. So you don't.
Oh, no, that's why I said you're brave. I don't know what's going to happen.
You didn't know.
This could be brilliant.
Or it could be a car crash.
It might not be. Yeah, that's the thing.
So when you first partnered with us, you'd come from that background of high volume. You were used to traveling the length and breadth of the Southeast, because you're obviously, it goes without saying for anyone listening in that Lee is from Essex, as broad as you like. And so one of the big things that we sat down and spoke with you about, and I think you, Kieran, and we had this conversation, 6-7 months ago, is you had a tendency when we first launched your business down in Essex to kind of go, if it's anywhere in the south of the country, I'll serve it. And you were traveling.
What do you mean used to?
Well,
I still do it. I'll do it now.
But I feel like you've gone narrower and deeper in the last 6 months. So you rather than kind of going, we'll go all the way over there, you'll still, if the lead arrives, like the one in Bromley, that obviously landed as an opportunity for Jack as a potential buyer. Jack introduced you. You've then won a £2.2 million listing, which is an hour and a half from you, 2 hours from you. In that regard, you'll still do the traveling. But I think before there was like quite a lot of I'll go out there and look for the business. I'll go out there and I'll cast my net really far and wide. Whereas you've become more localized this year And I don't know, my opinion on what's happened for you now, because obviously you and Kieran work as a duo. It seems like the business is a lot more organic now, and there's less chasing involved. Is that a fair reflection?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think anybody that's going to jump into this, you would cast your net so far because you don't think you want to miss out on anything. So even now, it doesn't matter to me because I was before Purple Bricks, I was at Express Estate Agency that were based in Manchester, and I would get a phone call from Steve, the sales manager, and I'll be doing a week in Halifax or Leeds or Wakefield or Newcastle. And I've got to tell you, I much prefer it up there, if I'm honest. So going in and around for the right instruction, never really, even today, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Well, I've got properties in Turkey for sale. If anyone's interested in properties in Turkey, I'll go wherever you got to go. But yeah, look, I think at the beginning, everyone makes not mistakes, but you got to audit yourself every little while and say, right, that hasn't worked. So flying out letters to here, there, and everywhere, I think you kind of hone in. It takes a while. I think it takes everyone a while. And it was you guys. Hyperlocal, yeah, all right, whatever. Yeah, whatever. And then you think, oh, fuck it, they're right, yeah, let's do it. So it has been a lot more organic. But then again, I'll go wherever the fee is right. Doesn't matter to me.
There's got to be something in what those boys are saying.
Yeah. Well, it's true. Like I say, that there is gold nuggets from a lot of what you say. I don't listen to all of it. But why would I? But I listened to the bits that, I come to that meeting and there was about 8 or 9 bits I took away from that. I know the other couple of hours, but that's what you need. It's golden nuggets. And I think you two are so different. Jack and I are very similar. You're very forward thinking, sort of, for want of a better word. No, not head in the clouds. That's wrong. But, you're like, right, dream. And you'll make it work. See, I can't. That don't work for me. I'm like, no, it's got to be in front of me. It's got to be this. Fucking got to be that. So I think the fact that you're so different, it works because at least one person will resonate with one or the other of you. And I think it's a good mix. I think having 2 Jacks or 2 of you, I don't think you would be the success that you are today.
I look, again, we've not paid you to say anything, but really appreciate that feedback because look, I don't mind being told that I've got my head in the clouds sometimes because
no, that weren't really what I meant. It was like you have thinking.
It's true though. It's true. I spend more of my time researching stuff that is absolutely nothing to do with this industry because I then kind of look for how can we bridge the gap between what that is and what we're trying to achieve so that we can innovate. And I love playing that role. Jack, you're absolutely right. If I was going to, and look, this isn't about, rubbing each other's backs on this podcast, but I've worked with hundreds of agents over the last 20 years. I've had the luxury of working with hundreds of agents. And I have the pleasure now at the Avenue of working with probably 3 of the top 5 agents I've had the pleasure of working with. And Jack is comfortably within that. He's just an exceptional agent. Does everything from front to back so well. So if anyone wanted to replicate a process, for God's sake, never replicate mine. Follow Jack's lead.
I think it's good. We think different. So I'm much more of a short-term thinker. James much more of a long-term thinker. So if you need those quick wins, then yeah, I'm here to support you. If you're looking for business planning for a long-term growth, then James is your guy. And I think there's a good blend there, which is good. Very briefly, Lee, but one of the questions I wanted to ask was, you've obviously recently joined forces with Kieran, someone you've known for a long time. First duo within the Avenue. How are you finding that? What was the differences? How's it been since kind of partnering up and becoming a team?
So I knew this question would be asked, and I remember laying there last night and I was thinking, I don't even remember when it happened or how it happened. I've got to be honest with you. There's not a point where I can think that Kieran and I said, oh, let's do it. There probably was, but I can't. It just kind of went and then merged together, and I can't put my finger on it. I'll ask him. I promise I will get to the bottom of it. But I don't know, really. It was kind of like, look, we kind of work the same way. Obviously, we have, he wants to do some stuff that way. I want to do it that way, but it's the same. It's normal. But I don't know when or how it come about, but it just did. And it's good because you've got, like now, if there's if something needs to be done, Kieran picks it up. When I was at home last week, Kieran went away, I'll pick it up. And you've also got two, like blowing my own trumpet, exceptional agents that can go into any property against any agent and win it. As long as, we're talking same value, someone's not overvaluing it 50 grand, we'll win it against anyone.
Yeah.
So it just kind of makes sense, and
that's just fact.
No, it's true. It is true. Like I think my conversion rate last year was like 93%.
Yeah. So it's
just
facts. It's just facts. So obviously you boys now work as a duo. You're down in Essex. Obviously you joined us a bit earlier than Kieran.
Yeah.
Gone on the journey. For anyone listening in, because we've got a real varied audience. We've got some people who are in a situation where, as for argument's sake, say they're in employed world and they want to transition, but for one reason or another, right now it's just not an option. We've got some people that might be, or I know that listen in, that are part of other brokerages where there maybe isn't quite so much support, or there aren't so many frameworks or innovative ideas, whatever. What would be your biggest piece of advice, disconnecting us, biggest piece of advice to anyone that's considering going down the self-employed route?
Okay. So look, do you know what? There's never the right time. Even when you guys would have started this business, you could have probably put blockers in the way. Oh, this is happening, that's happening. Look, when it's a big decision, it ain't ever the right time. When I went into self-employed estate agency, the first thing I done, and I think the wife wanted to kill me, is I went out and got an expensive Mercedes on HP. And that was it. I was like, this has got to work. It will work. Look, I think everybody sees it as you're going alone. And that's it. You're self-employed. You're on your own. Partnering up with somebody that has got your back and is also we're quite rare. I don't think there's many that do that. I do know other brokerages, I'm not going to say, but they'll take you on and you can actually be an estate agent, if you like, underneath them, if that makes sense. So you can kind of all go on and then start bringing people on, and you could make up your own name and be powered by whoever we're talking about there. So there's no difference really between it. You can go it alone, but it's funny you say that. Hopefully these people are listening. So when I was in High Street for a while, there's two people that make a brilliant team, and I want them over. Not for any other reason than they're too good for what they do. Individually, I don't know if they would make it. I know it sounds really bad, but there's reasons they might do, they might not. But as a pair, 100% would make it. So if you are out there and like High Street, let's be honest, get in the office at 8:30, go home at 6 o'clock, pray for a fucking viewing so you can get out the office. Like, we all know what it's like. Promise promotions, promise this, and it never happens. So I think everyone dreams of where I am now. Everyone. But you've got to have a little bit of risk. And it ain't as much of a risk as you think. What I would say to anyone is, one thing I know about you two is you're very honest. If you think they're ready, you'll tell them. If you think they're nearly ready, you'll give them advice on how to be ready. And if they're not, you'll fuck them off. So it ain't like the other ones where they just go, yeah, come on. I know that you guys have got that kind of way about you, because I put someone forward to you that I thought, he's going to go straight in. I'm not going to mention his name, covered Ilford area. And then you said he didn't have the going out and getting the lead. So you thought you didn't want to set him up to fail. And it made perfect sense. So if there is anyone out there listening, what I would say is just have a chat with these two. And I ain't blowing them out. I get nothing out of it. Have a chat and see exactly where you are, because you might think you're here, but you might, I don't know if you can even see me hands, you might be further along than you think. Do you know what I mean? So it always will help just to get that, find out where you are.
It's interesting you say that, Lee. It's interesting you say that, because Jack, you will agree, because you've sat in the meetings. We've had meetings with some people, or conversations with some people, where their own belief, and look, I'm never going to knock anyone that's got belief in themselves. If you can't have belief in yourself, then don't expect clients to have belief in you. So you have to start with some self-belief. But we've met and spoken to people with very, very limited experience, but they've got this attitude where they're like, but we can do everything ourselves. We don't need the support and the frameworks and the guidance and the network. We can do it all ourselves. I'm like, that's cool. Best of luck. But I don't want to set you up to fail because
Agreed.
you haven't got, I promise you haven't got everything that you need. Like, I'm 20 years long in the tooth in this industry, and I don't believe I've got everything I need. I believe I've got a lot of what I need, but I'm constantly learning and looking for new ways to do things so that we can continue to innovate and develop. But then there's other people that are incredible. Like, they would set the world on fire and create an unbelievable business. And they're like, well, I don't know that either I'm ready or I don't know that I'm good enough. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, you're unreal. You'd be incredible.
It's that mindset piece as well, isn't it? I think it's a challenge for people. Like you said, there's always change that's happening. You've got to keep on learning and developing and sharpening your tools to make sure that you're a step ahead. But it's very difficult to do that when you're also trying to build your business up from complete scratch. So where do you find the time then to learn, unless you're part of a network of agents that continue want to improve and develop? And I feel like that's what we're looking to build, is a network of agents that are like-minded, forward-thinking, want to share new ideas and innovate the industry and just make things a better place. Coming back to one thing, Lee, that you mentioned at the very, very start of that was putting yourself under a little bit of pressure. You bought a car on HP just as you started your self-employed estate agency. That must have been some pressure just as you're going self-employed.
Do you know what? So it's just exactly what James said there. You don't know how good you are until that safety net's removed. That's it. Like, you can have let's be honest, right? In High Street, you think you're safe. You're safe for 3 months. Where's my fingers? You're safe for 3 months as a valuer, and then if you're shit, you got 3 months probation, and then you're gone. Am I right or am I wrong? They're not going to keep giving you leads if you're not. So you're actually safe for 3 months. So thinking that is a safe, that's the hardest place to be, because I could have 2 months here, which I think I did. I think we had so much going on last December, January, February. I think March and April we might be on one. Now imagine if that was in another industry, one instruction in 2 months, but it didn't matter because we had so much before that. I don't have to. Obviously it'd be an issue if I wasn't bringing anything on or our pipeline. It's a shame I ain't got my board in front of you, because I'd probably wipe off a few of the postcodes and I would show you how much that we've got on. And it's, like I say, it's removing that safety. That's when you know how good you really are. It ain't when you've got the safeness in the back of your mind that, oh, well, if that don't work, I'm fine. You're not. Like, you're just, that you only regret the things you don't do.
Yeah. Look, I agree entirely in terms of the pressure. I mean, we had a previous podcast, we discussed self-employed estate agency, whether you could take a part-time job or whether you had to throw yourself all in. And look, there's debate across the industry. It can work for some people. For me personally, the type of person I am, I have to be under pressure to be able to perform. And I think unless you get that pressure, it's like a task will take you as long as the time that you've got. However, the same with having a bit of pressure. If you need to hit a certain figure by a certain deadline, otherwise you're going to really struggle financially, then you're going to make sure you do everything you can to hit that time frame. If you've got a lot longer to get there, you're going to take a lot longer and you're not going to put the pressure on yourself to get the job done. So I think pressure is an important thing if you're looking to start a estate agency. There's never any perfect time. Put yourself under pressure and let's see how you perform.
It's an interesting one as well, isn't it? Because you touched on people's attitude around employment being safe. And it's such a fallacy. It comes from generations before us. Go and get yourself a safe job. Now, estate agency is such a volatile industry. It only takes 3 or 4 months of poor income in a business and they start making layoffs.
Yep.
And they start making people redundant at a moment's notice. And so is that really that safe? Is it? But if you're in control of your own destiny, all you've really got to do is get your head round what you do to survive the first 6 months, 7 months of your self-employed business. And I think the big thing is that, again, is the level of pressure, isn't it? It's we've spoken to loads of people that have got loads of ability that could do very, very well. But the one thing standing in their way is a lack of start cash. And the issue with that lack of start cash is they'll never have it because they're in an industry and in a job where the money only just pays them enough to keep their head above water and they're paying their bills. So they're never going to have that money unless they take a risk, whether they refinance their house, whether they raise the money through the bank for a bank loan. But then that pressure that is applied gives them the freedom further down the line because they are in control. The market doesn't dictate whether a self-employed agent succeeds or fails. It's their own inputs. It's their own efforts. If you were someone that was bone idle, and 15 to 20 hours a week, by the way, that you work, you talk about that like it's, but the reality is the 15 to 20 hours you're doing, I know full well that for you to have that little time invested, because it's a part-time job really, isn't it? When you put it into real terms.
If that.
But you're doing 15 to 20 hours of graft, give you the remainder of your time back. You're not working 15 to 20 hours and then spending 15 hours of it just scrolling through Facebook and that's what, let's be real. A lot of agents sat behind their desk in an office. They're knocking in 50 hours a week, but the reality is 30 of them are probably a complete waste of time.
No,
they're doing
that's what I mean. Yeah, I'll make you laugh. So I got an instruction. So I had a property on the market, and they sent a viewing request dinner. Someone sent a viewing request. I want to say about 9:30 at night, and I replied to it. Why wouldn't you? So it come through Life Cycle. I saw it and I thought, I'll reply. So then we're just having a little bit of text conversation going backwards and forwards. And it turns out they had a property to sell as well. Now, I didn't know this first of all because they put cash buyer. That wasn't my reason for messaging back. I always message back straight away. And they was like, I can't believe you've messaged back this time of night. I was like, well, you've messaged me. I'm not just going to ignore it. And they said, can you come and look at our property? I was like, okay, no worries. I said, I thought you was a cash buyer. No, we've got a property to sell. And I remember going there, and I promise I said these words as well. It was like, I can't believe you was replying at 10 o'clock at night and working. I went, I'll tell you exactly what I was doing. I was laying in my pants in bed watching 2.5 Men replying to you. But the fact of the matter was, because everybody's on their phone now all the time, why would I just ignore it? It come through, and I know that you're looking at my property online. Why would I not? And I always say this to customers as well. The busiest time on Rightmove, we all know, guys, is between 6 and 9 o'clock at night. Agreed? Yeah, it is. Because why would I not be awake at that time? It's like being an ice cream man in the UK and pissing off for the whole 6 weeks holidays abroad. It makes no sense. I'm awake when the market's awake for my customers, but I want them to not think that I'm sitting in an office in a laptop waiting for it to happen, because that would then be false. I'm not. I could be, in the hot tub. I could be out at whatever, or laying in bed watching 2.5 Men like I was at that time. But it's making sure you look, because then I ain't lost that instruction, and I've got something from that because I replied at a silly time at night.
It becomes a lifestyle, doesn't it?
I was going to say it's the lifestyle. So the 15 to 20 hours that you've referenced, I think people listening in need to be clear that what you've just said that isn't part of that 15 to 20 hours. That's just it's come through, so I'll pick it up. That's not work. That's just a very quick response to someone. And it's that lifestyle, but it's also those little 1%. And that's the one thing that I've really enjoyed about the relationship we've had in partnership with you, is that you're always open to the idea of those little 1% that can make the difference. Like, you recognize that if someone comes through to you after 6 o'clock of an evening, you've immediately got a competitive advantage. Immediately.
Great.
It makes sense. What's the harm in dropping a very quick text? Thanks for inquiry on such and such address. When would you like to come and see it? Or can we arrange a call to have a chat or whatever? Like, that little touch makes such a difference. So yeah, like, I think there's so many nuggets of gold. You said at the beginning, it's a bit of a risk having you on. I knew it was a risk in terms of some of the things you possibly could say.
Yeah,
but,
I've been really well behaved.
But the reality is,
there's been some questionable comments.
Not for me. That's my best behaviour. Anything other than that. There is one thing I want to touch on. I remember this from our first ever interview, if you want to call it that, and we disagree. And I remember hearing it with you speaking with Emily about it. Brand and personal brand, and I know that you guys put personal brand and think it's way more important. And I heard you say about Elon Musk, and I agree with you in a way, but for me, I think the difference between the importance of brand and personal brand, I think it's important at different stages. Let's talk, for argument's sake, you said about Elon Musk, but would you have heard of him? He might have more of a following, but would you have heard of him without Tesla or SpaceX? Mark Zuckerberg, would you have heard of him without Facebook? Bill Gates, would you have heard of him without Microsoft? Maybe they've overtaken it, but I think it's the brand that's, for me, is the most important thing, first and foremost. And I always say that.
I love that, Lee. I love that was so high on your agenda that we've not even discussed
it. Was because because I heard it and I thought, nah, bollocks, I ain't having that. I've got to I've got to say what I've got to say.
Okay, so to translate that, then your view is that having a brand that can be recognised in some way behind you. I'm just trying to translate this for the way in which you've explained it. So Elon Musk is the example.
I think brand is what gets you to the door. Everything else is on you, but I think brand is what gets you to the door. And without a good brand, I don't think you get to the door.
Interesting.
I think it's one of the reasons I think why we've built the model, the Avenue model at brokerage in terms of the way that we did do that, because it gives the agents the credibility that they need. Sprinkle a little bit of their personal branding on top of that, and their personalization, and get their personalities across, and that's what's going to win that instruction. But I do think a blend of the two is really important. I think with the self-employed models that are out there now, those that have got a blend between personal brand and agency brand, as long as there is a consistent theme across the agents in terms of the service or the marketing, I think those are the ones that I'm seeing becoming really successful.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
But final question for you then, Lee. Final question. Being that this is the Elite Agent Masterclass, what, in your view, does it take to be an elite agent?
Bollocks. You've got to have a big set of balls. Let's not butter it up. You can sit there, like I say, look, anybody, I promise you, look, this will go on LinkedIn, this will go on Instagram, I'll be tagged. Man, if you don't want to speak to these guys first, just ask me, and I'll tell you now, there is never a right time. There's never a right time to really get married or have a kid or buy a house. There's never a right time for anything big. But once you do it and you know you've made it, life becomes easy. So look, sit there thinking about it for the next 10 years, or just give it a try. You don't need to have tons behind you. Like, I know the marketing's pretty much looked after with the systems that we've got. So you don't need to throw £1,000 a week or a month at marketing. As you can kind of really focus it, and you can go out door knocking. I know everyone hates door knocking, but I'm all right at it, to be fair. I just love getting in people's faces. One thing I have done, though, I've got to be honest, is I've done a lot of sales training with, I'll plug in, why not, Jeremy Minor, and it's a lot of tonality. And I can tell you the difference between where I was and where I am now just by being able to ask the same question in a different way, exactly the same question, but with a different tone. Yeah, like what you said about going back and keep learning. Things I've learned off that bloke is unbelievable. Anyone that needs to go and try it, 100%. So if you are thinking of starting off, have the right tools. Speak to these guys, speak to me, speak to all the other agents at the Avenue. We'll tell you the same thing. You know, they ain't got to lie about it. You know, if you're not, one thing here, you're never planning of moving on. And you are at Purple Bricks, you are at wherever you are. You're like, right, I hate this, I want to move on. Everyone does that, probably on a Sunday night when they're thinking about Monday. I hate my job, I want to do this. Yeah, I don't have that.
Love that.
So grow a pair.
I was going to say, just to summarise then, a pair of metaphorical testicles and continually learning and developing new skills.
Yeah. Every day.
And there's a little for Jeremy Minor as well. We might have to get him on the next pod.
Great shout.
Could be expensive. I think from what I've learned from him, I think he's like top 1% in the whole of America. But the tonality of being able to, I can give you an example. I'll give you one quick example before I go and jump back in the pool. We done a viewing for somebody for no reason, no fault of our own. We was late for the viewing, so we'd already pissed them off and given them the ump. And they was like, well, we want our house valued. And we already knew that we was one of 4 going in. And we knew, look, they've got the ump with us. They're getting us in just for our evaluation. And I went there and they had quite a big downstairs. We'd done the office, downstairs cloakroom, and the front room and got into the kitchen, and it was frosty, man. Like, they didn't want me there. And I thought, I'm going to try what he said. And I did. And I went over and I said, look, I don't really know if I can help you yet. All I need to do is sort of understand what you want. You understand how I work, and then we can sit down and have a chat. I've got no board here. I don't go into evaluation with any presenter, anything other than just me. I said, I'm just here to have a chat with you. I said, we'll sit down at the end and we'll see if we're the right fit. Hour and a half later, I'm still in there drinking tea. By the time I got out and drove along, they'd started a WhatsApp group with the property name saying, we want you to instruct us. And that was I knew I was going in there just to give a valuation, but I tried that. This was ages ago, over a year ago. I tried that with what he said, and they literally relaxed. They put the kettle on, and turned out to be one of the best valuations ever.
I think that the great thing in that as well is you read the room and understood what point they were at in their journey and addressed that situation by changing up your tone. Glass.
What a fantastic anecdote to end the pod. Lee, it's been a pleasure. There hasn't been too many risque things. We shouldn't get cancelled or get too many complaints off the back of your shares. So, mate, we really appreciate you taking an hour out of your time whilst on holiday with the family. Go and enjoy some more sun, get some more Factor 50 on, and have a good one.
Got it right here, mate. If you can see it, wherever it is. I will be applying it. Thanks so much, guys. Take care of yourself.
Take care, mate.
See ya.
See you soon, mate.